Strike first, strike hard, no mercy!
What, Kreese? Not good enough for you?
Let's try that again. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy! Strike first, strike hard, no mercy!
What's going on, friends? Logan Myers here for Cinephellas.com. Tonight I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorite shows from last year, a surprise hit, Cobra Kai, that was on YouTube. This time around we have season 2 that just premiered last week. Couldn't wait to dive into this, and we ended up knocking this out in like a few days. They're only a half an hour long, 10 episodes. Last season we had the return of Cobra Kai, and we saw the point of view of Johnny Lawrence, where he's at, midlife, not doing too well. So opening Cobra Kai, getting new students in the dojo, really sparks something inside of him, and he gains the love for life again, and he finds out that he's still passionate about karate. And a lot of things went down between him and Ralph Macchio's character, Daniel LaRusso. A lot of great moments. In the first season, I reviewed a few episodes right here on our YouTube channel, so check those out if you have not done so. Last season we saw Miguel and Cobra Kai. They ended up defeating Miyagi-Do, headed by Ralph Macchio, Daniel LaRusso. They kind of cheated about it, and they went about winning the wrong way, and Johnny Lawrence wasn't too happy about that. That's not the way he's training his students. He's not going to be Kreese. And they ended up fighting dirty, and he wasn't too happy with his team of Cobra Kai. We see Kreese, the badass villain from the original Karate Kid movies. Martin Kove returns, smoking a cigar. It's kind of a cliffhanger leading up to the second season. We have Miyagi-Do versus Cobra Kai. Kreese is back and better than ever. He looks great for his age. He's still a badass. He's still sinister. There's something really off about him. Johnny basically gives him a chance. It sets up a few early fights in the season between Kreese and Johnny. Just straight throwback to Karate Kid 1 and 2. And throughout the show, there's a lot of throwbacks, and they pay homage to a lot of songs and scenes and things like that from the movies. So it's really great they did that. But with the introduction of Kreese, he's a changed man. He's been through hell and back. He's telling Johnny the story, and Johnny believing that, Kreese can finally change. He's not that same asshole that really fucked up Johnny's life when he was a teenager. Throughout the second season, you see things change between Johnny and Kreese, and not the best of things. We also get to see Ralph Macchio, Daniel LaRusso, and his family. He has his daughter Sam and Johnny Lawrence's kid Robbie. Both were in the first season. He's training them Miyagi-Do and trying to get more students, so he's trying to market this idea. It's not about, what Cobra Kai believes in. It's just about karate and what it takes to learn all these skills that Daniel learned from Mr. Miyagi. And again, there's a lot of throwbacks to Mr. Miyagi in season 2. Essentially, they have the two different teams, Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, so they're kind of go back and forth. Daniel and Johnny always having the beef together. They always run into each other. They really have this comedic relationship at times too, because they hate each other so much, from all the past events in the 80s. They just can't get along as middle-aged men, and it just seemed like an old married couple that are unhappy, and they really worked well off one another throughout the show. And you see the relationship kind of change too as certain occurrences happen in the show. But the action this season, it's definitely over the top and a lot more choreographed than the first season. The first season seemed more like it was realistic, and like a kung fu movie. It was just like over the top and like doing backflips off logs and trees and shit, and just over the top. And these kids are teenagers, so they look like professionals. Hawk, he had the mohawk. He was kind of annoying throughout the season and over the top as well. He's just like, yeah, I'm Hawk. And he just starts like breaking out into a fight and kicking people's asses. I'm like, you couldn't do that. You can't just go to a mall and just start beating up people, not get in trouble, not get arrested for that. So some of the parts of the show were a little unbelievable, but didn't really care for his character this season. They introduced a new guy who was super funny. He was in Kingdom. He played Stingray. He was like the older guy that joined Cobra Kai, and he had a cool like goatee and stuff, but he was really kind of there for the comedic relief. On the rest of the Cobra Kai, Miguel, one of my favorite parts of the first season, really great young actor. He was in Parenthood, and Miguel really having that relationship with Johnny, kind of like the father figure, and listening to him and not trying to be so awful to people and trying to be a better person, and also just kind of control his anger. And, he's still trying to figure out things with him and Sam, which is Daniel's daughter, with her training Miyagi-Do, and her working with Robbie. Her and Robbie have this love interest, and Miguel's kind of jealous, which opens up another relationship in the show. A newcomer named Tori. She's like the punk rock chick for Cobra Kai. She has a lot of attitude, and she can kick some ass. So her and Sam like butt heads throughout the show, and it's always Miguel and Robbie. There's lots of anger and tension in this season between couples, and the old married couple between Johnny and Daniel. Well, Cobra Kai, this is really Johnny Lawrence's story yet again. I do love Ralph Macchio playing Daniel LaRusso, but I thought, Johnny Lawrence's character is really more interesting to see what he's been through. The beginning of Cobra Kai, he was like a deadbeat, broke, drunk, not living a great life, and then we see him returning with Cobra Kai, bringing that back, and him finding happiness in his life and purpose in his life again. And, in season 2, we really see that. He keeps shining. He, continues to be a great sensei in season 2 and letting Kreese work with them and train the kids and things like that. He seems like really happy, but it all changes towards the end of the season, which is really heartbreaking. The way they end it's kind of a cliffhanger again, leading up to maybe a possible season 3. I'm not sure yet, but it was really great story arc for Johnny, and yet again, he's a standout of this season. And my 2 favorite episodes of this season, season 6, we saw the return of the original Cobra Kai, minus Dutch. He was in prison, I guess they say, in this episode. He's been in prison for like 20 years or whatever. But the rest of the remaining Cobra Kai guys from the original movies were in it. It was really great episode because they're like on this road trip. Their friend's dying, he has brain cancer. They go to a bar, and every bar that Johnny goes to has Coors. I never see that at any bars. I think people drink Coors Light, but not the original. So it's funny, they always throw that in. It's like a walking advertisement for the original OG Coors beer.
It's no downstream beer.
It's no city beer.
It's Coors.
It's the high country. Climb up to Coors.
But they show up at this bar, and it turns into a straight up 80s like fucking fight scene. All the old Cobra Kai guys getting back together and kicking some ass and still showing they know their karate, in their 50s. A lot of great dialogue and story with their friend dying, and just a great action scene. And then the final episode was really good too, straight up 1980s action scene. It's like 20 minutes of fighting. Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, they butt heads in high school, this huge battle. I'm not going to get into too much, but it's just so over the top. These teenagers can fight in a high school. It lasts for 20 minutes, nobody stops them, no cops are there. The teacher's like, oh, I'm good, just not butting in. So that part was a little unbelievable, but I get what they were trying to do with it, a throwback to the 80s and not making sense, but just straight up action. And that's what they conquered in this episode. And it leads up to something really tragic at the very end of the final episode, episode 10, with one of the characters. I'm not going to say anything about that, but it's really heartbreaking. And I could kind of see it coming with this huge fight and not being stopped in what they're fighting on, like stairs and things like that. And kind of a cliffhanger, and seeing what they're going to do with this character and how it's going to intertwine with season 3. But I have my theories about that. Another heartbreaking aspect of the final episode, we see what happens to Johnny in his dojo, Cobra Kai. I'm not going to say too much, but if you can predict things with Kreese's character, you can pretty much figure out what happens. Very heartbreaking because Johnny Lawrence is such a good guy now on the show, and you really love this character. It's his show. His story arc is phenomenal, and just seeing what he goes through from season 1 to season 2 to being heartbroken once again. But overall, I had an absolute blast with Cobra Kai season 2. I don't think I liked it as much as the first season. Just a few negative comments I had about this season. Just the choreographed action seemed a bit over the top at times. But great aspects of the show, great parts. I really loved Johnny's character and seeing how he evolves and what changes in his life and how he overcomes things and what's next for him. And the returning character of Kreese, played by Martin Kove, he was phenomenal. Always a great villain. Great to see him again in this role, and he really knocks it out of the park. And Daniel LaRusso, played by Ralph Macchio, again, a fantastic character. It was great seeing him and Johnny. And I love seeing the cast again. Miguel's probably the standout for the new Cobra Kai team. And seeing Sam and Robbie training and fighting again. And there's lots of throwbacks to the first 2 Karate Kid movies, so pay attention and see if you can find those. One that I absolutely loved, a throwback, was in episode 10, they had Cruel Summer by Bananarama. Was in the first Karate Kid movie, so that was a cool little throwback. So overall, I'm going to give Cobra Kai season 2 a 4 out of 5 Mr. Miyagi hair pieces. So if you guys did check out season 2 of Cobra Kai on YouTube, what did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What do you think is going to happen in the next season? Let us know in the comments below. Ooh, and don't forget to hit subscribe. This is Logan Myers signing out with my mate here, Kreese. Until the next video review. Cheers!